Welcome to CARICOMP Insider, where high-tech facial recognition meets real-world intelligence. So today we're looking at something that I think is going to reshape how facial recognition technology gets regulated, and probably sooner than most people in the industry expect. There are strong signals right now that regulators are moving towards splitting facial recognition into two distinct legal categories. Not banning it outright, not leaving it unregulated, but drawing a clear line between two very different uses of the same underlying technology. Let me break down what's happening. First, the accuracy of leading facial recognition algorithms has crossed a really important threshold. Peer-reviewed research is now putting top systems at or near 99.9% accuracy across demographic groups. That matters because, historically, when a technology reaches that level of reliability, legislatures stop treating it as experimental and start treating it as infrastructure that needs formal governance. We've seen this pattern before with other technologies. At the same time, biometric spoofing, things like deepfakes and synthetic identity attacks, is getting more sophisticated. That's actually accelerating the urgency for regulators to distinguish between two fundamentally different use cases. On one side, you have passive mass identification, think scanning crowds at a concert or a transit hub in real time. On the other side, you have active investigative comparison, where an analyst is working a specific case, comparing specific images with documentation and oversight. The threat profiles for these two uses are very different, and the legal treatment is starting to reflect that. We're already seeing this take shape. Legal bodies like the New York State Bar Association are examining facial recognition deployment at specific venues, which tells us that context of deployment is becoming the primary legal variable, not the algorithm itself. And the EU AI Act has already made the split explicit. Real-time remote biometric identification in public spaces is classified as high risk, while narrower, documented case-specific uses sit in a substantially different compliance tier. U.S. regulators have a history of borrowing from that kind of framework. The expert comparison I find most useful here is wiretapping law. Courts didn't ban electronic surveillance. They compartmentalized it. Targeted, warrant-supported, documented interception became legally protected. Dragnet surveillance became prohibited. Facial recognition is approaching that same inflection point. Now, there is a serious counterpoint worth acknowledging. Critics argue that creating a formal split risks giving investigative facial comparison a false sense of legitimacy, essentially handing courts a checklist to rubber stamp analysis that might still be flawed. That's a real concern. The answer isn't to resist the distinction, but to make sure the acceptable category carries genuine methodological standards. Things like audit trails, confidence scoring, and transparent reporting, not just a different label on the same practice. So here's the plain English summary. Facial recognition is powerful enough now that governments are done treating it as experimental. Instead of regulating it as one thing, they're moving towards splitting it into two categories. Mass surveillance-style scanning of crowds is heading toward heavy restrictions or outright bans in many contexts. But targeted, well-documented investigative use, the kind where an analyst compares specific images for a specific case with a clear paper trail, is likely to remain legal under a different set of rules. The key for anyone using this technology professionally is being able to prove your process is careful, bounded, and documented. Not after the rules change, but right now. It'll be interesting to see how quickly U.S. regulators formalize the split, especially with the EU AI Act already providing a working blueprint. For investigators and security professionals, the question worth sitting with is whether your current workflow, exactly as it exists today, would hold up if that legal line got drawn tomorrow. Now you know something most people in this industry don't. Use it. And when you're ready to put it to work, caracomp.com. We'll see you tomorrow.